Today I want to talk to you about the concept of proof, which is a very important part of the field of mathematics. Let's look at this statement. Two odd numbers always add to make an even number. Someone says it's true because 3 add 5 is 8. Another agrees because 13 add 29 is 42. But are these two examples enough to prove that it's true? Look at this next statement. Numbers that end in 3 are always prime numbers. You may give me lots of examples that suggest it's true. 3, 13, 23, 43, 53, 73. But are these enough? Hopefully some of you are thinking that 33 ends in 3 and is certainly not a prime number, so the statement is false. It only took one example to disprove the statement. It's often much easier to disprove something than it is to prove something. Some things are very hard to prove. In 1637, a mathematician named Fermat proposed a theory which he was convinced was true, but he couldn't prove it. It became very famous because it wasn't actually proved until 1994, even though many mathematicians had tried to prove it over the years. In the world of statistics, we look at the likelihood of something being true. For example, if you suspected a coin was biased in favour of heads, you may choose to flip it 10 times. You would expect it to land on heads 5 times if it was fair, but if it landed on heads 6 times, would you be convinced it was biased? Well, probably not. But what about if it landed on heads 7 times, or 8 times, or 9 times? At what point would you be convinced it was biased? Could you ever know for sure? We test things to levels of certainty, or what's called levels of significance, and often try to have a 99% certainty that the coin is actually biased. Now let's move away from the world of coins and odd numbers to the far more important proofs for God. Let's look at the evidence. We've heard 2 brilliant talks from Jeff discussing that the origin of the universe and life and the design and order of the universe is extremely unlikely to have happened by chance. One scientist said that the impression of design was overwhelming. Where did consciousness come from? Are my thoughts and reactions just electrical impulses and chemical reactions? If so, can I ever trust my own thinking then to be true? Or is there another spiritual dimension that explains my ability to think, to make choices, sometimes against what my instincts are telling me, and to feel such complex feelings? Well, the Bible says that the universe was created by a grand designer and that I was created in his image. But how can I trust the Bible? The Bible has over 6,000 manuscripts, far more than any other book in history. Homer's The Iliad has only 600. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1940, a new copy of Isaiah was found, which predated the older copy of Isaiah by 1,000 years. When they were closely examined, the texts were found to be almost identical. In 1,000 years, they hadn't changed, like we change things when we play Chinese whispers. Also, archaeology confirms that biblical places, events, and people are historically accurate. And the Bible talks about a man, Jesus, who was born, crucified, and was raised. There were many eyewitness accounts that verified Jesus' resurrection, and the recording of it in the Bible was written very shortly after Jesus' death, when there were plenty of people who could have disputed it. The Romans tried their hardest to stop Christianity, yet it grew and spread across the world, from disciples that had previously been terrified to ones that were prepared to die proclaiming that Jesus had been raised from the dead. And the final proof is me. God speaks to me, not in a voice out loud, which we need to do when we communicate with each other because we're limited, but he speaks through his word, just like we communicate in writing and texts, and also in the spiritual dimension that we've talked about earlier. Also, he's changed me and is changing me. I have found myself behaving and reacting in ways that I can only explain is his grace at work in me. There's a lot of evidence there to suggest that God is there and can be known. And my challenge to you who do not accept it is, can you disprove it?